The turnstile flashed red, and alarms chirped like metal birds as Alex Carter said, "My badge worked yesterday." A guard stared without blinking, and the lobby felt colder than glass. A text arrived from Jordan Park that read, "Call me now." Alex stepped aside, palms sweating, and watched coworkers drift past with eyes that slid away. Another ping landed, an anonymous number whispering, "Check your inbox." Alex opened the phone and saw a forwarded thread. Subject line, revenue smoothing. The thread carried Alex's name like a target sticker. The cursor hovered while Alex said, "This is wrong." A manager, Dana Whitfield, crossed the marble floor and smiled without warmth. She said, "Systems glitch. It will handle it." Security tightened their circle by inches, pretending not to. Alex scrolled, seeing totals that never matched and approvals stamped at midnight. A child's photo filled the lock screen, Mia grinning with missing braces. Alex said, "I won't pretend." The elevator doors sealed like vaults around other people. The guard's radio crackled and someone said, "Hold him." Alex felt the day tilt, as if the building shifted, and the fall had already begun. A conference room swallowed noise while Dana Whitfield said, "It will restore access after lunch." The table smelled like Polish and old coffee. Alex Carter watched the door stay unlocked, as if anyone could drift in and witness the lie. Jordan Park messaged, and the phone hummed against the wood like a nervous insect. Alex said, "The numbers don't reconcile." Dana folded her hands and let silence do the first cut. She said, "Words like that have consequences." Alex's mind ran to a school hallway. A locker slammed, a hush around a name. An email notification blinked again, and Alex stared at the subject line like a fuse. Dana said, "Your performance has been inconsistent." The word inconsistent stuck like gum on a shoe. Alex said, "I have questions I intend to document." The blinds clicked as HVAC kicked in, and dust rose like tiny witnesses. Dana stood with measured grace and said, "Focus on deliverables." Alex listened to footsteps outside and counted them. A laugh burst, then stopped. Alex said, "I won't sign off on fiction." The room returned to stillness, but the quiet felt staged, like a set before the lights burn hot. The elevator finally accepted a guest pass, and Alex Carter said, "Temporary, noted." The ride up was a mirror that multiplied doubt. On floor 12, the air felt thinner, and desks sat like neat dominoes daring a push. A coworker glanced up, then away, and said, "Big meeting." The tone was sugar with a rind of salt. Alex opened the shared drive and found folders renamed with bland titles, as if truth could be sanded smooth. A calendar invite pinged, optional, yet necessary. Alex said, "I'll attend." In the kitchenette, a drip machine hissed, and two analysts whispered with mouths that never moved. Alex reread a variance report, where midnight approvals nested like matryoshka dolls. A distant rumble of thunder rolled along the windows. Alex said, "If this goes public, it will not stop at us." A remark floated from a passing voice, "Keep your head down." The words left a trail like smoke. Alex typed one line into a private log, who signed, when, and why. The cursor blinked like a metronome counting down to something that would break. The meeting invite led to a glass box where smiles wore badges of compliance. Dana Whitfield said, "Thank you for joining, Alex." A slide read alignment, which felt like gravity in disguise. Jordan Park sat 2 chairs away, eyes kind, shoulders tense, and said, "Well, get clarity." The phrase sounded rented. Alex Carter said, "Show me the audit trail." A consultant nodded without committing and advanced a slide of colorful arrows that went nowhere. A compliance officer cleared her throat and said, "Language matters." Alex felt heat climb but held the surface still. Dana said, "We are not here to litigate accounting philosophy." Alex said, "We are here to record facts." The room stayed bright while the truth shrank in its chair. Someone laughed too loudly, then apologized with their eyes. Dana ended with, "Action items will follow." Alex stared at the screen, and saw the shape of a net. When they stood, Jordan whispered, "Careful." The word entered like a splinter and refused to leave. Outside, rain freshened the concrete and carried the city's electrical smell. Alex Carter said, "I need air." The phone vibrated with a new message from an unknown contact, and the preview read, "Your kid." The world narrowed like a tunnel with moving walls. A second text arrived, a photo of Nia's locker with a slur scrawled in marker. Alex whispered, "She's 12. A third line warned, "Tell your friend to stop." The word friend stabbed the memory of Jordan's soft warning. Alex said, "No." Umbrellas flowed like dark flowers, and no one stopped to see a life bend. A police siren grazed the edge of hearing and moved on. Alex typed, then deleted, then typed, "Leave my family alone." The send button looked small and final. A bus coughed, brakes squealing, and the stoplight reflected in puddles like broken signals. Alex said, "I will document everything." A final chime landed, "Do not make this public." The threat sat in Alex's palm like a hot stone that promised to burn through. The apartment smelled like rain and laundry when Alex Carter said, "Shoes by the mat." Nia slid her backpack down, eyes darting to the phone on his palm. She said, "Was that about me?" He answered, "It was about them." The word hung like wet cloth. The kettle hissed, and she traced a circle on the fogged window. Alex said, "Someone crossed a line at school." Nia shrugged and whispered, "Kids repeat what adults say." He felt the truth bite, then said, "You should never pay for my choices." She looked up, brave and shaking, and said, "Are you in trouble?" He breathed and counted to 4 like the counselor taught, then said, "I am in a fight." She nodded, shoulders squared beyond her years. He added, "We will tell the truth, and we will not hide." The kettle clicked off, and quiet settled like a blanket that could not fully warm them. The school office felt like a waiting room for storms. A counselor said, "We take bullying seriously." Alex Carter replied, "Then act like it matters." Nia stared at the floor tiles as if they might open. "Whoa." The principal softened her voice and said, "Online spillover intensifies things." Alex said, "Corporate spillover started it." The counselor slid a form across and asked for details. Alex said, "Locker vandalism, targeted language, threats." Nia whispered, "I can handle it." And he said, "You should not have to." A clock clicked with courtroom precision. The principal promised, "We will review footage," and Alex heard the thinness in the word review. He said, "Please call me the moment you know." When they rose, Nia touched his sleeve and said, "Do you wish you stayed quiet?" He answered, "I wish the truth never needed a fight." At the kitchen table, bills formed a nervous skyline. Alex Carter said, "Rent, utilities, groceries, and courage." Nia sorted envelopes like cards and said, "I can skip art club." He replied, "You will not." A message buzzed from Jordan Park, unread, glowing like a buoy in fog. Alex said, "I might need a lawyer." Nia frowned and asked, "Do lawyers protect or fight?" He said, "The good ones do both." She drew a small shield on a sticky note and pressed it to his laptop. He said, "We plan, then we breathe." The refrigerator kicked on with a tired hum. Nia whispered, "Tell me what happens next." Alex answered, "I write what I saw, and I keep copies somewhere safe." She nodded and said, "Then I will keep your sticky shield safe too." The room felt steadier, not safe, but aligned to a truer north. Night gathered at the window, and thunder stitched the distance. Alex Carter said, "We will set boundaries." He opened a new document and typed a heading, "Incident Log." Nia leaned in and said, "Write the date big." He smiled and did. He added names, times, screenshots to gather later. He said, "Facts survive heat." She asked, "Do people?" He paused, then said, "Enough of them do." A siren swept past and faded to a thin echo. He wrote a line about the locker, then another about the phone threats. Nia said, "Can I add what I felt?" He nodded and said, "Feelings are data too, just labeled honestly." She wrote the word scared, then crossed it and wrote steady. He read it and felt his spine lengthen. They ate late, noodles curdling steam like quiet prayers. Alex Carter said, "Your safety is first." Nia nodded and said, "Then we tell someone bigger than the school." He replied, "A journalist or a regulator." She asked, "Which one is kinder?" He said, "Neither promises kindness, only light." The city hummed through the walls like a patient machine. He added, "Light can scare roaches or wake neighbors." Nia said, "Wake them." He smiled at the order in her voice and said, "Then I will prepare a file they cannot ignore." She lifted her bowl and said, "And I will sit in the front row tomorrow." He said, "You will stand, not bow." The rain slowed, and the room exhaled with them. The weekly status call began with cheerful lies, and Alex Carter said, "Before we start, I need clarity on approvals." A silence tightened the line like a wire. Dana Whitfield said, "This forum is not for audits." Jordan Park coughed and said, "We can sidebar later." Alex heard keyboards clatter like insects. A slide appeared with numbers scrubbed clean, and he said, "Explain the midnight signatures." Dana answered, "Time zones." He said, "We are all in one tower." Laughter arrived too fast and died. He added, "I am logging this exchange." Someone muted him by mistake or design. Chat bubbles bloomed with corporate bromides. He unmuted and said, "The trail will not vanish." Dana replied, "Focus on deliverables." He felt the room tilt, then steadied his breath and said, "My deliverable is truth." Pa summoned him with a calendar ping that smelled like smoke. The office felt narrower than yesterday. An HR partner said, "There have been concerns about your tone." Alex Carter replied, "Accuracy can sound sharp against false notes." She said, "We value collaboration." He said, "Then collaborate with the facts." A paper slid across the table, a coaching plan dressed as help. "Daddy," she said, signed to acknowledge. He read each line as if it might bite. He said, "I will add a statement." Her smile thinned and held. He wrote that he was documenting retaliation. She said, "That is a strong word." He answered, "I learned it from your handbook." The clock moved like cold syrup. He signed with a hand that did not shake. Back at his desk, access to the shared drive blinked like a faulty star. Folders vanished and reappeared with new names. Alex Carter said, "Cute." He copied local files to an encrypted stick. A message from Jordan Park arrived, "Meet me on 12, private." The stairwell smelled like dust and old paint. Jordan said, "They are closing ranks." Alex asked, "Are you in with them or out here with me?" Jordan stared at the rail and said, "I have a mortgage." Alex said, "I have a child." The air tightened between them like rope. Jordan whispered, "There is a hidden workbook in finance." Alex said, "Then help me find it." Jordan nodded, but his eyes flickered like a warning. They reached finance after hours, where spreadsheets hummed like beehives. Alex Carter said, "Hidden workbook?" Jordan Park tapped a key, and a password prompt appeared like a trapdoor. He said, "Two-factor on a service account." Alex answered, "Then someone else can open it for us tomorrow." Jordan said, "Or for them tonight." They found a printout jammed under a keyboard tray. Alex whispered, "Totals roll forward without source." Jordan said, "It is bad math or bad faith." Alex photographed each page and said, "Both smell the same." A cleaning cart rattled the silence. Jordan flinched, then forced a grin. Alex said, "You can still choose a side." Jordan replied, "I already did. I came here." The next morning, a meeting appeared with no agenda, and too many invitees. The door closed with a soft verdict. Dana Whitfield said, "Let us reset expectations." Compliance officer said, "We encourage internal resolution." Alex Carter replied, "Resolution requires daylight." A slide showed a new workflow that routed approvals through fog. He said, "You are building a maze." Dana smiled and said, "We are building efficiency." Jordan Park avoided his eyes. Alex added, "People outside this room will care." Dana said, "People outside this room have limited context." He felt a tremor of fear and named it. He said, "I will file externally if needed." The room cooled by a degree. Someone typed a note that sounded like a lock. The hidden workbook cracked open with a borrowed credential, and Alex Carter said, "This is the artery." Rows of numbers pulsed red with misstatements. Jordan Park leaned closer and whispered, "Delete it, no one will know." Alex said, "Everyone will know if I erase this." He copied the file to a drive that felt heavier than steel. Jordan said, "You don't understand. They are watching me too." Alex answered, "Then why risk helping?" Jordan's hand trembled as he said, "Because I still wanted to believe you were wrong." The silence tasted of betrayal already written. The next morning, Alex's inbox carried a shock. An anonymous tip that said, "Jordan sold you." He froze, then whispered, "I knew." In the cafeteria, Jordan smiled too wide and said, "Rough morning?" Alex answered, "I slept fine." Jordan's laugh cracked, hollow as porcelain. Dana Whitfield crossed the room and rested a hand on Jordan's shoulder, and Alex saw the truth in her touch. Jordan said, "It's just strategy." Alex replied, "It's betrayal." The hum of vending machines filled the gap where loyalty once lived. In the stairwell again, Alex said, "Why, Jordan?" Jordan Park looked away and whispered, "They promised to protect my family." Alex said, "And who protects mine?" Jordan answered, "You put them in the line first." Rage boiled sharp, but Alex's voice stayed level. "You gave them a map to my house." Jordan swallowed hard and said, "I only gave them a key to your silence." The walls closed in with the echo of footsteps that might not have been theirs. At home, Mia asked, "Why did Mr. Park tell everyone about you?" Alex Carter said, "Because fear makes people small." She said, "Am I small?" He pulled her close and whispered, "You are stronger than anyone here." She pressed her cheek into his chest and said, "Then we tell the world." He nodded, holding her tighter than files ever could. The rain began again, hard against the windows, like the world pounding a drum of warning. The external regulator's voicemail light blinked like a heartbeat. Alex Carter said, "This is my line in the sand." He attached the hidden workbook and pressed send. His chest burned as if each megabyte weighed a ton. A message pinged back. "Receive." He whispered, "Then it begins." At that moment, the apartment lights flickered, and his phone rang from a blocked number. He let it buzz, and Mia asked, "Are you scared?" He answered, "Yes, and that means I am awake." The summons arrived in a white envelope stamped with weight. Alex Carter said, "Testimony." Mia asked, "Like in shows?" He replied, "Worse, because it is real." The courtroom loomed with ceilings higher than silence. Reporters whispered, cameras clicked. A clerk said, "Raise your right hand." Alex's palm felt heavier than stone as he swore to tell truth. He said, "Truth will not flinch." Dana Whitfield sat at counsel table, eyes sharp as glass, and smiled when he faltered on the first word. The air tasted like chalk, and his throat scraped. He steadied, saying, "I reported revenue manipulations." Gasps fluttered like birds in the gallery. The lawyer asked, "When did you first notice discrepancies?" Alex Carter said, "Q2. Approvals outside working hours." Dana's attorney leaned forward and said, "Speculation." The judge raised a brow and said, "Overrule." Alex steadied and continued, "Midnight approvals aligned with revenue smoothing, falsified totals, and hidden ledgers." Screens lit with his evidence, each number glowing like a crime scene marker. He said, "I preserved records because deletion is complicity." Murmurs spread across the room. Dana scribbled a note and slid it to her lawyer. Alex thought, her calm is a mask carved from fear. Cross-examination began like a blade unsheathed. Dana's lawyer said, You were under performance review, Alex Carter replied. For questioning fraud? He smirked. Or for poor teamwork? Alex said, teamwork dies when truth is buried. He pressed, is it not true you feared termination? Alex answered, I feared silence more. The room shifted in its seats. He asked, do you claim others are complicit? Alex said, complicity thrives in silence. The lawyer sneered, even your friend Jordan? Alex's eyes cut to Jordan, seated in the gallery, avoiding his gaze. He said, especially him. The word landed like a stone in water, rippling across every face. Evidence filled the projector screen. Signatures, timestamps, mismatched totals. Alex Carter said, this ledger moves millions with no origin. Dana Whitfield finally spoke, calm as ice. Those are clerical errors, not crimes. Alex replied, errors do not repeat at midnight with identical fingerprints. Dana said, your bias colors your reading. He answered, truth does not care about bias. The judge leaned in, and silence crackled. Reporters scribbled, one whispering, it's fraud. Dana folded her hands, spine straight, as though her posture alone could erase reality. Alex said, I gave everything because silence kills. When testimony ended, Alex Carter stepped into the hall where flashes erupted like lightning. A reporter shouted, why risk everything? He said, because truth is not optional. Cameras caught his fatigue and fire. Nia gripped his sleeve and whispered, they will twist it. He knelt and said, we hold the line. Dana exited behind them, polished smile for cameras, as though she owned the air. A headline already scrolled across someone's tablet. Corporate Titan faces fraud claims. Alex looked at the blur of lights and said, now the storm breaks. His voice carried into the chaos, steady and raw. Morning broke without triumph, and Alex Carter said, the truth is out, but the gears still grind. The company issued a statement that called everything an anomaly. Nia asked, does that mean they win? He answered, not yet, and not forever. A neighbor left a casserole and a fearful note that said, we support you quietly. Alex said, quiet support is still a light. Jordan Park texted, I am sorry, and he let the screen dim. He whispered, regret cannot stitch what you cut. Bills stacked like walls, and he murmured, we will pay with patience. Outside, buses sighed, and the city kept its slow promise to move. Power called with a new offer wrapped in velvet words. Alex Carter said, you want resignation and silence. The HR voice replied, a transition package benefits all parties. He answered, it benefits the secret. She said, consider your family. He said, I am. The line clicked with practiced empathy that felt like ice. Nia asked, will you lose the job? He said, maybe the job, not the work. He wrote decline and saved the email twice. He breathed in, then said, we endure by naming costs and still choosing the road. A journalist called with hard questions and a careful tone. Alex Carter said, print the ledger paths and the midnight stamps. She answered, on record? He said, on record. Nia listened from the doorway and asked, will this help the kids stop? He replied, it may help the adults stop. The journalist said, legal will push back. He answered, I will push facts. The call ended, and he wrote a timeline that bled from months into years. He whispered, I lost hours, not purpose. The school hosted a meeting with clipped smiles and careful chairs. A counselor said, we disciplined the students involved. Alex Carter replied, then repair the harm you measured. The principal said, we will host a forum. Nia squeezed his hand and said, I will speak if needed. He nodded, your voice is yours. A teacher added, this community can improve. He said, start with listening. The room inhaled a new kind of quiet. He thought, justice is less a door than a long hallway. Weeks later, the regulator sent a letter with careful language. Alex Carter said, preliminary findings support material misstatements. He let the words settle like rain after fire. Mia asked, does that mean we are safe? He answered, it means the truth is standing. A settlement rumor flickered across news feeds and he said, some justice comes wearing compromise. He opened a fresh notebook and wrote, next steps. He whispered, we rebuild without forgetting. The city shifted into evening, and lights stitched the windows like small vows. The letter from the regulator lay folded on the table, and Alex Carter said, this closes one chapter, not the book. Mia asked, will they stop being angry? He replied, anger shifts but truth stays. He looked out at the city, where sirens wailed and lights blinked like watchful eyes. Jordan Park sent another text, 3 words. I chose wrong. Alex said softly, you chose you. Mia touched his sleeve and said, we chose us. He felt her words anchored deeper than any verdict. He whispered, that is enough to stand. The office towers loomed in his dream like walls of glass teeth. Alex Carter said, I stood inside once, silent. In the dream, Dana Whitfield walked past without turning. He said, you wear armor of prophet. Her smile cut the air like cold steel. He woke with sweat beading his temples. Mia stirred and asked, bad dream? He answered, not bad, only unfinished. She whispered, then finish it away. He nodded, feeling the dream shrink but not vanish. A reminder carved in glass. The news anchor's voice bled through the television. Regulators confirm fraudulent reporting practices. Alex Carter muted the sound and said, they finally said the word. Mia asked, fraud? He nodded, fraud. She leaned against him and whispered, you made them admit it. He said, I forced them to stop hiding. Outside, fireworks popped for reasons unconnected. But he let them carry meaning anyway. He said, we do not always see justice land, but tonight it touched ground. On the school steps, Mia stood with friends who now smiled with cautious warmth. She said, they stopped writing on lockers. Alex Carter, waiting nearby, whispered, the storm passed, but scars remain. A teacher nodded to him with quiet respect. He thought, vindication carries a price no one repays. Mia ran back holding her backpack like a flag and said, I told them you are not afraid. He smiled and said, bravery is being afraid and still walking. The sky cleared with a softness that felt earned. That night, Alex Carter placed his notebook on the shelf beside unpaid bills and said, this is our record. Mia asked, was it worth it? He paused, then whispered, yes, because silence is a debt heavier than any bill. The phone buzzed again from a blocked number. He let it ring into nothing, then closed his eyes. Outside, the city hummed steady, uncaring, and alive. He whispered into the quiet, it was worth it. The words lingered like embers refusing to die, the final truth carved into air.